Our top stories this morning. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster grilled by reporters yesterday over the recent Washington Post story that claims President Trump revealed classified information to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. McMaster was asked if he stood by his claims that the Post story was false.
I stand by my statement that I made yesterday. And what I'm saying is really the premise of that article is false. And so I think the real issue, and I think what I'd like to see really debated more, is that our national security has been put at risk by those violating confidentiality and those releasing information to the press that could be used connected with other information available to make American citizens and others more vulnerable.
McMaster's defense comes as the White House fights off new allegations against the president. The New York Times claiming that the commander-in-chief asked then FBI Director Jim Comey to end the Bureau's investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. This during a meeting in the Oval Office in February. Joining us is former CIA operative and president of Diligence, a global intelligence security firm, Mike Baker, one of our favorite guests to have on this program. What is your take on the latest accusations with the reporting on what Trump allegedly said to Jim Comey?
Well, I mean, that's an easy one. You know, have Jim Comey either hand over this memo that an anonymous source, claims to have heard about, or have him come up and answer very clearly, did he ask you to do this? I mean, this is one of those simple ones. This should not puzzle the folks up on Capitol Hill very much. I mean, I know Washington tends to be the place where investigations go to die, but this, of all the issues, is pretty simple.
Mike, people are tweeting, viewers are tweeting this morning saying, how dare you cover this fake news? And I'll push back on that because the reporting isn't fake. Somebody associated with Jim Comey is clearly calling these reporters. This is a story that was confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, just to name one publication. And certainly the leaks coming out of Trump's own White House are not fake.
Right,
and that
right.
is, so again, to get to the nut of it all, it's also part of kind of, that exemplifies the turmoil that is part of this administration.
Well, it does, but there's lots in there that you have to separate, because the problem we've got nowadays is we tend to conflate everything. We're not able to separate out and talk about things in separate cases. So I think what people are frustrated with is just this endless use of anonymous sources. I mean, I think we all remember the days when you couldn't base a story on nothing but anonymous sources, and I think people are getting fed up with that. But I agree with you in the sense that, look, if there's a story, you've got to comment on it, you've got to report on it. What are you going to do? You can't just set it aside and ignore it. But at the same time, there's other issues that go, wanting for coverage, because we're just all dealing with this daily onslaught. Look, it doesn't really matter, I guess, at the end of the day, how the Trump administration deals with this one or any other that comes down the pike. The Never Trump, the resistance, whatever you want to call it, and their allies in a segment of the media, they're not going to. It's not like they're going to give up. It's not like they're going to stop this. They tend to throw these things out there, and then whether they're substantiated or not, they just move on to the next one, because they just refuse to accept the fact, I think, that they lost.
Mike, Steve Forbes here.
Yeah, hey, Steve.
When you're on defense, you go on offense. How do they turn this thing around? For example, why hasn't more been made of the fact this supposedly happened in February? If it was the big scandal, trying to stop an investigation or something like that, why did it have to wait to come out now? Where's their own messaging?
Right. Well, I think that's kind of goes back to what Dagan alluded to just a second ago, which is there tends to be a lack of discipline. Obviously, we've all seen that, I think, since the administration took power. But I think the biggest problem they've got is A, the president is his own man and has apparently no interest in really taking guidance or tamping things down from a social media or a messaging point of view. Until they get that buttoned up, we're just going to be looking at, one after another of these problems. And a lot of these issues have been self-inflicted wounds. I mean, even this issue with the intel release to the Russians, frankly, if the president had sat with his team prior to that meeting and said, all right, what can I share with them? And had a very, specific discussion with them, understanding that every word counts in that office, we could have avoided this conversation.
or even in the aftermath. There are at least 6 huge security breaches that came out of the Obama administration that jeopardized agents around the world. There's a Pakistani in jail because of cooperating with us and getting Osama bin Laden. Why weren't they ready with that to hit back and say, we may have made a mistake, but by golly, others have done far worse than we have, and there's a double standard here?
Yeah, I think, and that leads to the ongoing frustration from just people out in the heartland. I mean, I think a lot of people around America are saying, what is going on? How about tax cuts? How about resolving the health care issues? But I think there is this lack of, whatever it might be, strategizing discipline within the White House to understand first of all, how to deliver a message, but then second of all, how to deal with these slings and arrows that come after they've shot themselves in the foot.
Mike, turning to the search for Jim Comey's replacement, the administration has given no indication as to who will take the reins at the FBI. One of the names on the list, Congressman Trey Gowdy, took himself out of the running. Listen to this.
I think the country can do better than me, quite frankly. The Senate confirmation process would be dreadful and it'd be miserable. And quite frankly, I think the country deserves a woman or a man who is devoid of political taint.
Throw some names out there, Mike, who would be great at the job and who might want it.
Yeah, who might want it? Well, a lot of people would want this job. I mean, I don't want to make light of this. Look, I would say that Trey Gowdy did the right thing. I think what we don't need is somebody from the political realm. We don't want, I think, that baggage. Let's get somebody in there. I would prefer to see someone like Adam Lee, someone coming in, from within the Bureau, who understands the operational perspectives as an investigator, who's a solid manager. It doesn't have to be a high-profile person to run that organization. What they need is a strong manager, a strong leader who knows the culture. So let's avoid, political baggage when we go into this. And I think a lot of the names that have been thrown out there are just not going to work. So I think Trey Gowdy made the right decision from his perspective.